What minimum documentation is required to take an FAA knowledge test for any rating? Answer: proper identification, including the applicant's date of birth, a photograph, and signature. What information must be recorded to show meeting instrument currency requirements to act as PIC during instrument flight? Answer: location and type of each instrument approach and safety pilot name if required. What portion of dual instruction time may a certified instrument flight instructor log as instrument flight time? All time during which the instructor acts as instrument instructor in actual instrument flight conditions. Which flight time may be logged as instrument time when on an instrument flight plan? Answer: only the time you controlled the aircraft solely by reference to flight instruments. To meet the minimum instrument experience requirements of 6157C within the last 6 calendar months, you need holding procedures, 6 instrument approaches, and intercepting and tracking courses in the appropriate category of aircraft. After your recent IFR experience lapses, how much time do you have before you must pass an instrument proficiency check to act as pilot in command under IFR? 6 months. Answer: 6 months. A pilot's recent IFR experience expires on July 1st of this year. What is the latest date the pilot can meet the IFR experience requirements without having to take an instrument proficiency check? Answer: December 30th or December 31st this year. A pilot's recent IFR experience expires July 1st of this year. What is the latest date the pilot can meet the IFR experience requirements without having to take an instrument proficiency check? Answer: December 31st this year. Verifying that the altimeter meets the requirements of 14 CFR Part 91 of an instrument flight is the responsibility of the pilot in command. Answer: pilot in command. Before beginning any flight under IFR, the pilot in command must become familiar with all available information concerning that flight, including: answer: the runway lengths at the airport of intended use and the aircraft's takeoff and landing data. To serve as safety pilot for a simulated instrument flight, you must hold at least a private pilot certificate and an answer: appropriate category and class rating for the aircraft to be flown. What is the minimum flight visibility and distance from clouds for a flight at 10,500 feet with VFR on top clearance during daylight hours, Class E airspace? Answer: 5 SM, 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, and 1 mile horizontally. Explanation: basic VFR minimum weather minimums, except 9.155 basic VFR minimums, except as provided in paragraph B of this section and 91.157. No person may operate an aircraft under VFR when the flight visibility is less or at a distance from clouds that is less than the prescribed for the corresponding altitude and class of airspace in the following table. Airspace, the table's distance from airspace, flight visibility clouds. Class A, not applicable, not applicable. Class B, 3 statute miles, clear clouds. Class C, 3 statute miles, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet below, 2,000 feet horizontal. Class D, 3 statute miles, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontal. Class E, less than 10,000 feet MSL, 3 statute miles. 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet horizontal. At or above 10,000 feet MSL, 500 or 5 statute miles. 1,000 feet below, 1,000 feet above, 1 statute mile horizontal. Except when necessary for takeoff or landing, unless otherwise authorized by the administrator. The minimum altitude for IFR flight is 2,000 feet above the highest obstacle over designated mountainous terrain, 1,000 feet above the highest obstacle over terrain elsewhere. What are the minimum fuel requirements in IFR conditions if the first airport of intended landing is forecast to have a 1,500 feet ceiling and a 3 miles visibility at flight plan ETA? Fuel to fly to the first airport of intended landing. Answer: fly to an alternate and fly thereafter for 45 minutes at normal cruising speed. Which data must be recorded in the aircraft log or other appropriate log by a pilot making VOR operational check for IFR operations? Date, place, barrier, and signature. What are the minimum weather conditions that must be forecast to list an airport as an alternate when the airport has no approved IAP? Answer: the ceiling and visibility at ETA must allow descent from MEA approach and landing under basic VFR. For aircraft other than helicopters, the minimum weather conditions must be forecast for your ETA at an alternate airport that has precision approach procedure with standard alternate minimums in order to list it as an alternate for the IFR flight. Answer: 600-foot ceiling and 2 statute miles visibility at your ETA. Repeat. Answer: 600-foot ceiling and 2 SM visibility at your ETA. When making an instrument approach at the selected alternate airport, what landing minimums apply? Answer: the landing minimums published for the type of procedure selected. In the case of operations over an area designated as a mountainous area, no person may operate an aircraft under IFR below 2,000 feet above the highest obstacle within a horizontal distance of. Answer: 4 nautical miles from the course flown. In the 48 contiguous states, excluding the airspace at or below 2,500 feet AGL, an operable coded transponder equipped with Mode C capability is required in all controlled airspace at or above 10,000 feet MSL. 10,000 feet MSL. If an unpressurized aircraft is operated at 13,000 feet MSL for a period of 2 hours 20 minutes, how long during that time is the minimum flight crew required to use supplemental oxygen? Answer: 1 hour and 50 minutes. 1 hour and 50 minutes. An aircraft is required to have which of the following for IFR flight? Answer: gyroscopic pitch and bank indicators. Your aircraft had the static pressure system and altimeter tested and inspected on March 9th of this year and was found to comply with FAA standards. These systems must be re-inspected and approved for use in controlled airspace under IFR by. Answer: March 31st, 2 years hence. When is a pilot on an IFR flight plan responsible for avoiding other aircraft? Answer: when weather conditions permit. Unless otherwise prescribed, what is the rule regarding altitude and course to be maintained during an IFR airway? Oh, correction. Unless otherwise prescribed, what is the rule regarding altitude and course to be maintained during an off airways IFR flight over non mountainous terrain? Answer: 1,000 feet above the highest obstacle within 4 nautical mile course. While operating on an IFR clearance with Class C airspace, what service is provided by ATC? Separation from all IFR and participating VFR aircraft. In addition to VOR receiver and two-way communication capability, which additional equipment is required for an IFR operational Class B airspace? Answer: an operable coded transponder having Mode C capability. To operate an aircraft under IFR in controlled airspace, you must: answer: file an IFR flight plan and receive ATC clearance. VFR on top operations are not permitted. Answer: in Class A airspace. What are the vertical limits of a transition area that is designated in conjunction with an airport having a prescribed IAP? Answer: 700 feet AGL or more to the base of the overlying controlled airspace. What is the floor of Class E airspace when designated in conjunction with an airport which has approved IAP? Answer: 700 feet AGL. MOAs are established to: answer: separate certain military activity from IFR traffic. What does declaring minimum fuel to ATC imply? Answer: an advisory that indicates an emergency situation is possible. What response is expected when ATC issues an IFR clearance to pilots of airborne aircraft? Answer: read back those parts containing altitude assignments or vectors and any part requiring verification. Which clearance items are always given in an abbreviated IFR departure clearance? Answer: designated airport, altitude, DP name, number, and or transition if appropriate. A pilot should not accept an abbreviated departure clearance unless it contains at least the: answer: destination airport and route. At 8, ATC has cleared you to cruise 6,000. What altitude may you use? Answer: any altitude from minimum IFR altitude up to and including 6,000. Which rules apply to the pilot in command when operating on VFR on top clearance? Answer: VFR and IFR. While on IFR flight plan, you should notify ATC of a variation in speed when: answer: average true airspeed changes by 10 knots or 5%. You are departing a non-towered airport with an IFR clearance containing a void time. Answer: you must advise ATC as soon as possible, but no later than 30 minutes of intentions, if not off by void time. Which is true regarding the use of instrument departure procedures? Answer: to use an instrument departure procedure, the pilot must possess either a textual or graphic form of approved procedure. Answer: to use instrument departure procedure, the pilot must possess either the textual or graphic form of the approved procedure. When not in radar contact, you should always report: answer: departing the FAF inbound. During IFR flight in IMC, a distress condition is entered: fire, mechanical, or structural failure. The pilot should: answer: immediately declare emergency and obtain amended clearance. During an IFR flight in IMC, you enter a holding pattern at fix that is not the same as the approach fix with an EFC time of 15:30. At 15:20, you experience complete two-way communication failure. Which procedure should you follow to execute the approach to a landing? Answer: depart the holding fix at the EFC time and complete the approach.